Smoke drifted through the shattered eastern arcade of the Red Keep, twining like some shrugging serpent around scorched pillars and half-melted gargoyles. The dawn beyond the broken masonry was gray-violet and hesitant, as though even the sky were afraid to show its full color after so many seasons of blood. Beneath that uncertain light, Lord VARYS. No, King VARYS now, though he would not allow the title to settle upon his shoulders, stood alone among the ruin. His soft slippers made no sound on the fractured marble. The hem of his saffron silk robe whispered nothing more. Silence in the heart of the castle felt unnatural, as though the very stones waited for the scream of a dragon, the clash of steel, the roar of a mob. None came. For the first time in many years, the capital held its breath. He inhaled slowly. Char and old death layered the air, but beneath them, faint as a pulse in a sickly child, came another fragrance. Damp river wind and the brine of Blackwater Bay, the smell of life continuing whether kings rose or fell. That scent told VARYS he had done enough, today at least, to keep the city breathing. Yet breath was not life, and life was not peace. His round face, so often arranged in a bland smile, betrayed nothing as he surveyed the throne room's wreckage. It had not been repaired since Queen Daenerys' Dragonfire. The Iron Throne itself remained, jagged and towering, but half its barbs were warped into grotesque knots of black iron. Those molten twists gleamed like frozen tears in the dimness. VARYS approached, trailing a hand across the ruined hall's collapsed benches, past banners scorched to brittle ghosts of cloth. Each step felt heavier than the last, though he weighed less now than in the feasting days of Robert Baratheon. His appetite, once legendary, had shriveled during exile in Pentos and the long, covert voyage home. He had not expected to survive the return, let alone claim the seat that had slain a score of dreamers. But a spider errs when he dismisses the strength of his own web. He halted at the dais. A single torch hissed on a nearby pillar, its yellow tongue licking the damp stone. The throne loomed over him, vast, sharp, cruel. Even scarred, it remained a monument to every vanity he despised. It was also the fulcrum upon which the realm's fate still teetered. You cannot melt the symbol without melting the men and women who worship it, he had once told Tyrion Lannister. Better to seize the symbol, reshape it by quiet degrees, and teach the worshippers another creed. Yet now that the moment had come, he felt, absurdly, like a child who has climbed too high in a tree. He laid a palm on the armrest. Gold, forged from the swords of dead foes, Aegon's boast to the realm. Dragons and fire had built it. Dragons and fire had nearly buried it. But whispers, carefully spun, had resurrected it. Whispers and choices. He had chosen betrayal more than once, chosen to slip among factions like a shadow among candles, puffing out some flames, shielding others. He had chosen to risk everything on the conviction that the realm needed not a conqueror of kingdoms, but a keeper of lives. Lives are not kept by blades alone, he reminded himself. Spiders kill their prey, yes, but only to feed the web that supports all future young. Still, the thought of sitting chilled him. Somewhere in the farthest vault of memory, a voice drifted up, a voice unused since childhood. Before the sorcerer's dagger, before a lifetime of masks. Careful, VARYS. Sharp things cut deep. He almost laughed aloud, but his throat stuck. Instead, he perched on the lowest step of the dais, folded plump fingers in his lap, and watched dawn strengthen through the shattered clerestory. The hall brightened from ash gray to pewter, then to the washed copper of early sun. Light caught the sword spikes above, turning them into a forest of needles. A tremor of movement rippled through the air behind him, and he sensed rather than saw Cusa emerge from the shadows. One of his newer little birds, a Lycene girl of 12 whose eyes missed nothing. "Your Grace," she murmured in High Valyrian. The language felt brittle on her young tongue. He did not correct her. "Report, Tidy-1. Outside the mud gate, 100 gold cloaks kneel in the mud, waiting for pardon. In Flea Bottom, bread was given at sunrise. They fight over crumbs, but no one's died yet. Ser Podrick holds the gates to Maegor's fastness with 30 knights sworn yesterday. Niall, Varys allowed himself a single nod. Podrick Payne, once squire to Tyrion, had shown a steadiness too rare in men twice his age. And the lords, gathering in the Tower of the Hand, they argue which titles to keep. Some quarrel over who will speak first. Kiedza shifted her bare foot on the stone. Lord Giles Rosby begs audience. He coughs blood, says he cannot wait. Tell him the king will visit shortly, Varys said. But first fetch Maester Jalabar Daydat. The ravens must fly by noon. Nay, yes, your grace. She withdrew, silent as mist. The king. The word felt foreign, like a borrowed tunic, too tight across the shoulders. He never truly wished to be one, but wanting and needing were seldom twin. Jon Snow, Daenerys Targaryen, Aegon young Griff. Each had been a cipher onto which Varys had projected hope. Each hope had bled out on sword or pyre or rumor. If the realm were to know quiet, someone had to sit the throne who believed quiet was worth more than glory. And so the spider became the crown. He rose, smoothing creases from his robe, and took 3 deliberate steps forward until metal kissed silk behind his knees. Carefully, he lowered himself onto the fused blades. Points scratched through the fabric, pricking the softer flesh beneath. Pain flared. Thin, immediate, real. A fitting reminder. Rule is no cushion. He breathed once, twice. In his mind, he pictured every alleyway of King's Landing, every tenant farm in the Reach, every fishing village on the Fingers. Countless candles struggling against endless night. He pictured the children first. It was always the children who paid earliest and dearest. Those chills seeped through his bones, but the vision warmed him. So let them call me Spider King. Spider is patient. A new web begins. At midday, the Privy Council assembled in the small hall, its windows glazed with rippled Dornish glass that made sunlight tremor on the flagstones. Varys, crowned with no more than a simple circlet of beaten silver, occupied the high seat. The circlet's plainness had already drawn whispers. Power flaunts itself, some said, or else it is not believed. Varys thought otherwise. A whisper can topple a wall if the mortar is cracked. To his right stood Ser Brienne of Tarth, newly named Lord Commander of the King's Guard. Another quiet blade sharpened by grief and duty. Her white cloak fell in unadorned folds. Her great sword, Oathkeeper, rested across mailed palms. Behind her loomed 2 other sworn brothers, Ser Podrick Payne and Sir Dermot Sand, a taciturn Dornish bastard whose loyalty had been purchased not with gold, but with the release of his mother from a Lannister dungeon. 3 knights only, for now. Enough, Varys thought, if every corridor of the castle was also threaded by little birds. Shoveled Maester Jalabar, thin and ink-flecked, reeking of parchment. Beyond him sprawled Lord Harry Swift, Master of Coin by default after the extermination of the old Lannister Guard, and Lady Illyria Baelish, a distant niece of Petter's, who had returned from the Fingers with a ledger thicker than a Septon's belt and a talent for figures sharper than any knife her uncle had ever wielded. Metal-shod chairs scraped, scrolls unfurled, wax dripped onto maps where borders shifted daily like fever dreams. Varys listened as each spoke. Grain stores, harbor tariffs, the price of linen in Tyrosh, a sellsword companies, march along the Trident. He let the chorus wash over him, filtering urgency from panic. where Robert Baratheon had grown bored by numbers, where Joffrey had sneered, where Cersei had brewed spite, the Spider King merely noted, weighed, tucked threads into memory. When talk turned at last to succession, he lifted a hand. Enough. What is broken must be mended before heirs can inherit fragments. Speak of walls, not tapestries. Nani. Lord Swift blinked. Walls, your grace? Zegas may rise again if the roots of hunger grow. Start with the granaries. He gestured to Lady Illyria. She outlined swiftly. The Reach's capacity to feed 3 kingdoms, if only bandits were pruned from the Gold Road and the Mander's bridges rebuilt. Brienne volunteered Royal Engineers. Podrick promised the Gold Cloak's best archers to guard wagons. Plans unfurled like new shoots through ash. All the while Varys let his gaze drift to the latticed window. Beyond, King's Landing sprawled in a haze of early summer heat. Rooftops like crusted sore. Streets like scabbed veins. He imagined each house as a knot in invisible silk. Strengthen the knots, and the great weight of the realm might find purchase. After the council dispersed, he lingered. His legs ached from the Iron Throne's barbs. Tiny beads of blood had stained his robe's lining. He felt the dampness, but did not look. Wounds deserved no contemplation. They needed only binding, lest infection set in. That applied to kingdoms as well as skin. A soft step approached. Brienne, helm tucked under one arm, cleared her throat. Your Grace, if I may, the Iron Throne should be reforged. No man or woman can sit it without injury. The realm bleeds enough. I have considered, VARYS said, massaging a thigh, but symbols unmade too swiftly can breed fear. He offered a mild smile. Fear fashions daggers of its own. She nodded, though uncertainty clouded her blue eyes. Still, perhaps a cushion. A cushion. He almost chuckled. Yes, perhaps. Plain velvet, so common folk might see a crown does not rest on gold alone. Nuyit dil. Brienne's mouth twitched, half amusement, half puzzlement that courts could revolve around such trifles. He liked her for that. She bowed and withdrew. Alone now, he sank into a chair that did not stab him. Outside, bells tolled noon. Their bronze tongues swung slow and weary, echoing across a city half in ruins, half in restless birth. He closed his eyes and pictured again the web, each thread trembling at a different pitch, some taut with need, others slack with despair. His little birds tugged here, there, relaying secrets, pinching rumors before they flowered into rebellions. Buds were frail. Threads could snap. He would need more than spies. He would need hope, seated in every market, every sept, every roadside inn. Hope was dangerous. It could starve if unmet. He thought of one who had carried hope like a torch and burned herself with it. Daenerys Stormborn, whose ashes still fogged these corridors. He would not repeat her blaze, nor would he mimic the cold iron of Cersei. Somewhere between fire and ice lay a gentler season. A parchment rustled at his elbow. The first list of names for the king's peace, men and women, slated for pardon if they bent the knee by full moon. He traced the inked columns. Among them were butcher boys pressed into Lannister service, widowed innkeepers who had fed rebel scouts, even a septa accused of ringing bells for Queen Daenerys' approach. Small folk, all. Symbols, in their way. He dipped quill in pot, scratched a single sweeping mark, pardoned. Somewhere, a child would sleep easier tonight. Night fell without fanfare. In the cool hush of his solar, Varys stood before a narrow mirror of polished obsidian, a relic prized from the wreckage of Dragonstone. The glass showed him a man grown thinner, paler, soft jowls sagging like melted candle wax. Yet the eyes, those remained bright, black buttons set in ragged silk. Eyes of a spider indeed. He studied himself without vanity, searching for new fissures. Every ruler acquired cracks. The trick lay in mortar stronger than the blow. A knock. Husa entered, bearing a wooden box. "From the locksmiths," she whispered, setting it on the desk. He opened it. Inside lay a ring of delicate keys, each wrought of fine steel, their bows shaped as tiny sigils: a trout, a rose, a falcon, a direwolf, a lioness. The great houses, tokens to be sent north, south, east, and west. Keys to food stores, not dungeons. He took the direwolf key, weighed it in his palm. To Winterfell, then, along with a letter of amnesty for Sansa Stark. Rumor said she ruled the north wisely, but would not bend knee again to any southern crown. Let it be so. A spider's web needs anchors beyond his reach. He wrapped the keys in embroidered cloth, sealed them with plain wax. One by one, he handed them to Kiza. "Swift little wings," he told her, and softer words. She curtsied, smiling with chipped teeth, then vanished. With that done, he turned to the open window. The harbor's lanterns flickered like amber fireflies. Somewhere a singer plucked a lute, the notes drifting thin as smoke. No roar of crowds, no shriek of wildfire. Fragile quiet. Yes, but quiet. Varys allowed himself a breath that trembled. Spider King, they might name him. Weaver of lies, eunuch, monster. Say all they wished. If his reign left more children alive than dead, more streets paved than burnt, he would count the bargain fair. Wind stirred his silk sleeves. Far below, the city murmured. Alive. He imagined its voices rising together, not in rage, not in terror, but in ordinary chatter of bakers and beggars and brides. A sweeter music than any bard could summon. He closed his eyes and listened, vowing to hear that music above every council's clatter, every lord's complaint, every assassin's nightbound tread. For now the realm slept beneath a spider's watchful web, and dawn would come again. Or 32, 0 characters, ready to continue on your cue. Near one. The Spider King rose before first light, roused by a dream of chittering legs upon silk. In the dream, the web trembled not from prey but from fire, and each strand melted like sugar in boiling water. He woke with sweat beading his scalp, the bare patch where his braid had once hung tingling with phantom nerves. Dawn had not yet tinted the sky. The torches in the corridor guttered low, casting red mouths of shadow across the stones. Varys dressed in silence, choosing ash-gray silk lined with undyed wool, and draped a cloak of plain lamb's wool across his shoulders. No jewels, no collars of gold. Jewels shouted. Spiders whispered. He stepped into the corridor and found Sir Dermot already stationed outside his door, visor up, dark eyes keen but unaccusing. The king's guard bowed. Come, Varys murmured. There's something I must see before the city wakes. No trumpets announced his passing. Only the creak of mail and the faint scuff of soft slippers on stone marked the royal progress. They descended spiraling stairs to the belly of the Red Keep, past doorways where mice scattered, past alcoves reeking of mold and ancient wine. At the lowest level, Varys motioned Dermot back. He unbarred a narrow oaken door himself and slipped into a chamber none but the little birds frequented. Here the secret scribes worked by hooded lamps, pale youths whose quills never ceased. Scrolls lay like molted skins on stone benches, ink smelling of lampblack and turpentine. Kiweza appeared at once, eyes gleaming in the gloom. 3 birds from Old Town, she whispered. 2 from Gulltown, 1 from Winterfell. She handed him wax-sealed scraps. Each bore a ciphered mark, spiral, crescent, trident, that only he could decipher. He broke them one by one. Pandita Josiah, Old Town reported the faith militant had elected a new high septon, a quiet man named Theomore of Honeyholt, rumored devout yet pliable. Good. Zeal mitigated by humility could be guided. Gulltown informed him that Lady Royce had hanged 2 Blackfire claimants posing as merchants. Better. The Vale remained wary of dragons old and new. Winterfell's raven, penned in Sansa Stark's own neat hand, thanked him for the direwolf key but declined to swear fealty, offering instead watchful friendship, as the North has always offered to allies who do not threaten her. Varys smiled. A thread unbroken was still part of the web. Another scrap caught his eye, unciphered, smudged by haste. Storm's End under siege by Sellsword remnants loyal to House Baratheon's shadow pretender, Lord Adrian Storm. Provisions low, garrison weary, but its castellan, Sir Brian Ferring, helped. The Spider King frowned. The siege starved fish and farmer alike. Relief was imperative. He scribbled an order on the back of the note. Assemble river barges at Bitterbridge, load with grain, sail at once with escort of royal archers. He sealed it and passed it to Kedza. Send at sunrise and remind the archers. Gifts offered at arrow point are poison. Words first, arrows last. She vanished in a rustle of threadbare skirt. Varys replaced quill, smothered lamp flame, and withdrew. Above ground, dawn bled, pale gold across the city. The harbor stank of low tide and tar as he emerged onto the eastern Barbican with Sir Dermot. Seabirds whirled, screeching. He watched fisher boats push off, sails catching the first stray breeze. A lad on the quay yelled coarse jokes at a girl balancing a basket of flounder. She smacked him with a gutted fish, laughter ringing like silver bells. Life, stubborn and ungenteel, persisted. He breathed salt air until the dream's heat cooled. Tell Sir Podrick to assemble a detachment, he said to Dermot. I go among the streets today. The knight inclined his helm in assent. Within an hour, Podrick, clad in half-plate freshly polished, but still ill-fitting about his lean shoulders, met the king at the gate of the gods with 20 gold cloaks. Their shields had been painted the previous night. No longer a roaring lion, but a stylized spider worked in gray on black. The paint smelled fresh and harsh. Varys winced. In time, he murmured to Podrick. The symbol will matter less than the conduct behind it. Podrick's boyish grin suggested hope. They walked. King's Landing shuddered at the royal party's approach, but did not scatter as in Joffrey's reign. Some knelt, more simply stared, mouths ajar. Varys inclined his head to a toothless crone, accepted a posy of wilted rue from a child whose eyes were crusted with infection. At Cobbler's Square, he halted beside a cask where water sloshed green with algae. Send for the city engineers, he told a gold cloak. Wells are life. He dropped silver stags into the cask until they clinked on wood. Clean it, cover it, guard it. They passed the sept of Baelor's broken foundations. Only charred stubs of columns remained, jutting like dragon teeth from rubble. Masons toiled, stacking limestone blocks. Varys stepped among them, stooped to heft a trowel, spread mortar on a joint. Sweat beaded instantly at his brow. Murmurs chased through the workers. The king lays stone. The spider grips a trowel. He smiled without looking up. A web's strands are many, he said to no one in particular. Yet each strand must bear weight, or the whole collapses. He finished the joint, set the trowel aside. A mason, unsure whether to bow or scowl, stammered thanks. Varys squeezed the man's dirt-caked shoulder. When the bells of this sept ring again, he told the mason. Let them ring gentle. They moved on, Chevis taught. At the fish market on the Blackwater's edge, rancid eels steamed under the sun. Flies buzzed. Varys paused before a cart where a boy of perhaps 15 coughed blood onto his sleeve. Grayscale patches mottled the child's wrist. Podrick shifted uneasily. The healers say it will not spread once it crusts. The boy rasped, seeing Varys' gaze, but the others keep away. Varys dipped fingers into his purse, drew forth a small clay vial of Maester's salve, prepared for such an encounter. "Apply thrice daily," he said, "and wrap with clean linen." He handed the boy the vial and a silver stag. "Spend this on food, not drink." The boy stared, eyes filling. "Thank you, Your Grace." As they left, Podrick murmured, "There are thousands like him." Varys nodded. "Then, thousands vials we must procure." When the sun stood high, they returned by way of Eel Alley. There, 4 cloaked figures slipped from a doorway, blades flashing. Ser Dermot flung himself between king and steel, but Podrick was quickest. He parried one blade, kicked the attacker's knee, and slammed hilt to temple. The man dropped. Another rushed Varys directly. The king stepped aside with unexpected grace, extending a slippered foot. The assassin tripped into Ser Dermot's waiting gauntlet. 2 more hesitated, caught between duty and fear. Gold cloaks circled. One tossed his dirk aside and knelt. The other tried to run, but an archer's arrow pinned his cloak to a post before he made 3 strides. Varys sighed at the corpse that swiftly followed. "Alive is always preferable," he said quietly. Podrick wiped blood from his sleeve, cheeks pink with adrenaline. They bore no sigils, yet every blade bears a patron, Varys answered. He knelt beside the still living man whose knee he had toppled. "Who sends you?" The man spat, lips split. "Bastards, do you like kings?" Varys nodded. As if the answer made sense, and plucked from the man's belt a coin. Not gold and not silver, but iron, stamped with a 7-pointed star over crossed swords. A symbol of the faith militant disbanded by Cersei, revived by High Sparrow, crushed by dragonfire. Yet an ember can glow under ash. He pocketed the coin. Back in the Red Keep, the king convened a smaller council. Brienne, Podrick, Dermot, Lady Illyria, and Maester Jalabar Dar. He tossed the iron coin onto the table. "Someone funds zealots." Jalabar adjusted spectacles. "The faith militant is outlawed. So was alchemy." Varys countered, yet wildfire smoldered long in secret. Illyria tapped the coin with quill tip. "Iron of this purity comes from forge works south of Lannisport. Expensive to import east. I'll trace accounts." Varys inclined his head. "Begin with bankers who tithe to septs." But gently. Brienne frowned. "What of the High Sept in an old town? If he stirs rebellion, we must act." "No," Varys said. "We must listen. Fire cannot extinguish faith. It only feeds martyrdom. We will speak with Theomore." Podrick volunteered to ride to Old Town. Varys countered with a softer messenger. "A sister of the Quiet Isle respected for tending plague victims. Let charity precede crown." Word reached them then of a visitor at the river gate. Tyrion Lannister. Brienne's hand tightened on Oathkeeper. Dermot's nostrils flared. Varys closed his eyes briefly, as though tasting bittersweet wine. "Send him in," he decided. Podrick's ears reddened. His memories of Squire days colored by both gratitude and heartbreak. He left to fetch the dwarf. Tyrion shuffled into the council chamber leaning on a polished cane of ebony, dressed in sober black trimmed silver. Gray streaked a lion's mane of curls. His mismatched eyes flickered to each face, lingering 2 blinks longer on Podrick. "Your Grace," he said to Varys, voice like gravel rolled in wine. "I come humbly." He bowed, deep, formal. The room held his breath. "Rise, Lord Tyrion," VARYS said, measuring the air. "You have news?" "A proposal, in fact," Tyrion replied. He reached into his doublet, withdrew a parchment. Cersei's vaults, what remains of them, contain promissory notes to the Iron Bank. "I propose we honor a fraction now, forestalling interest. The Iron Bank's confidence will steady trade, which your Spider City sorely needs." Illyria snatched the parchment, scanned it, smirked. "It will cost 3 harvests of wine, cheaper than 3 winters," Tyrion retorted. Varys studied the dwarf's face, and in return, a seat at this table, came calm reply. "Master of ships, I have experience avoiding storms." He spread short arms. "And you need a voice to reach the Westerlands and the free cities all he." Brienne glowered. "A voice some would call kinslayer, queenslayer." Tyrion's shoulders sagged, yet eyes flashed iron. "A voice that learned from ashes." Silence thickened. Varys's glance swept the others. Jalabhar fiddled with chain links, uncertain. Illyria's brow creased in mental arithmetic. Dermot's hand rested near hilt. Podrick studied his old lord with a mixture of longing and wary caution. At last Varys spoke. "A spider chooses allies by thread weight, not color. Your thread, Lord Tyrion, holds much, secrets, debts, cunning. But can it bear burden without fraying?" Tyrion bowed again. "Test me." Varys nodded once. "Master of ships you shall be, for 1 season. In that season, secure a treaty with Braavos for grain, loans, and dispatched pirates preying off Gulltown. Succeed, your chair stays." Tyrion's grin crooked like a mended fence. Done. The council dissolved. Podrick lingered, eyes bright. Tyrion touched his arm. "You grew, Pod. You shrank," the young knight offered, then laughed despite himself. The halfman squeezed his hand. Varys saw the exchange and permitted himself a smile. That evening a new raven arrived from across the narrow sea. Volantis. Its scroll bore orange sigils of the Triarchs. The Triarchs offered mercenaries, 5,000 spearmen, 2,000 crossbowmen, in exchange for trading rights upriver to Maidenpool. Varys weighed, tucked the scroll away. Mercenaries hired once expected coin forever. He would answer politely, delay decisively. Another raven followed, this from Dorne. Prince Coren Numeros Martel congratulated the Spider King and proposed a marriage. His niece Arianne to any heir Varys might name, sealing peace. Varys sighed. Eunuchs fathered no heirs. He drafted reply. The realm thanks Sunspear's olive branch. Perhaps olive orchard to match. Send cuttings north. Let them root. Then we speak of roots and twine. Poetic ambiguities bought time. Midnight told. In his solar Varys unfurled a great map of Westeros across the carpet. He lit beeswax candles till their glow touched every border. Small ivory tokens represented lords, sellsword bands, maester conclaves, faith cells, guilds of cobblers, fishmongers, and mummers. One by one he nudged tokens along roads, grain to Storm's End, lumber to Dragonstone, rebuild, Maester Envoy to Winterfell, carrying subtle healing herbs. Over each movement he whispered a promise. Bread first, blades last. A knock interrupted. Maester Jalabhar entered, brow shining with excited sweat. "Your Grace, the household ledgers." "Look." He presented a slim volume bound in cracked blue leather. Cersei siphoned coin to an account marked simply, "For him." Over 20,000 dragons missing. Varys flipped pages. When? Right before the explosion of the Sept. "I suspect wildfire bribes, but to whom?" Jalabhar gulped. "Alchemy Guild, or faith radicals who aided her." Varys fingered the iron coin in his pocket. Threads converged. He sent Jalabar away under oath of silence, then summoned Quetza and 3 of her most able birds. Bian the rat-faced cutpurse, Sela the washerwoman, and Koja, a summer islander acrobat. Find the path of that coin, he instructed. Iron sword, 7-pointed star. Follow Buyers of Wildfire's green glass. Follow whispers of thunder underground. They bowed like shadows and disappeared. The Spider King allowed himself no sleep. He studied the map until candles guttered, then took inkstone and wove letters to each major port. Crack down on Blackfire imposters. Hire local guards. See coin stays local. He ended every letter with same motto: quiet webs catch storm flies. Dawn's first yawning glimmer caught him at the window again. From the harbor, a bell rang thrice, signal of an incoming galley under white flag. Varys blinked away, grit, focused. White flag meant parley. He summoned Brienne. Together they watched the galley warp to the royal pier. Its sails bore a purple kraken entwined with sapphire serpent. Brienne scowled. Ironborn and Lizzie, a curious braid, Varys murmured. A delegation rowed ashore. Asha Greyjoy, short hair, hard eyes, flanked by 2 oarsmen. Beside her strode Lirio Vaz, a Lycian magister, famed for slave fleets, though Lys claimed abolition. Asha hailed first. Spider King, she called across the pier. I have come for the drowned and the bound alike. Varys descended the pier alone, cloak fluttering. Lady Asha, he greeted. Or is it Queen and Pike? She laughed. Only damn fools chase crowns of salt and rock. I chase coin. She jabbed thumb at Lirio. He sells ships. I teach them sail. You have need, so we reckon. Varys gestured toward the city. Coin is saltier here than sea air. Lirio bowed. My fleet stands idle after abolition, he said in accent thick as garum. 700 hulls. Sell to you for harbor rights and charter, and the Ironborn. We say your grain, guard your shores, cut pirate throats. Her grin bared wolfish teeth. For a price, Varys considered. Hire marauders and slavers reborn as merchants. Yet, crews of salt men feared little, and Lyseni shipwrights fashioned hulls, swift as seabirds. He bargained on the pier, 1/3 discount if Ironborn refrained from raiding Westerosi coasts. Asha balked, then laughed again. We'll raid nothing under your flag, so long as flag flies. Then keep it aloft, Varys said. He penned provisional contract. The crown buys 90 galleys at reduced silver. Crews paid fair wages. Lyseni share profits of cargoes legal. He sealed it. The Kraken woman offered calloused hand. The eunuch king clasped it. A small tremor of history shifted. By dusk, Tyrion returned from the royal library waving a treatise. I found reference to the coin, he announced to Varys beside a brazier. It appears in records of the faith's hidden arsenals beneath Sept of the Savior in Maidenpool. Storehouses of alchemical wild sparks. Varys tapped his lip. Maidenpool is near the Trident. He pictured the map, and near the Sellsword Company marching. Tyrion nodded. Precisely. Someone aims to reclaim those arsenals. Varys turned to Brienne. Ready 200 riders. Podrick leads. Beat the bandits to the Sept. Secure vaults before sparks ignite. Brienne volunteered herself. You cannot, King's Guard, she argued. Guard the king by guarding the realm, he replied. She bowed stiffly. That night Podrick knelt before the Iron Throne. Varys rose from its barbs to fasten a simple brass star upon the young knight's cloak. Sir Podrick Payne, he proclaimed, voice echoing off shattered vaulting. I name you Warden of the Trident, temporary, with charge to safeguard Maidenpool. Pod's freckles deepened with blush. I will do my best, your grace. Do better, VARYS murmured, then louder, and return alive. They departed at moonrise. VARYS watched torches snake northward beyond city walls, till only embers dotted the dark. Alone on the dais, he touched the throne's armrest and winced. The cut from earlier reopened. Blood welled. He sucked the finger, tasting iron and rue. Remind me, old seat, he whispered. That comfort breeds complacency. He turned toward the gallery and froze. A figure stood beneath a cracked pillar. Melisandre, the red woman, skin glowing in the torch's slow flame. King Spider, she purred. You weave a fine trap for yourself. VARYS' heart hammered, mind flashing to that fateful night on Dragonstone years ago when she had foretold his death. What vision brings you now? He asked, voice brittle. Melisandre stepped forward, ruby at her throat pulsing. One realm, one dawn, one life for another, she said. The stranger's shadow follows you. When the song of bells rings thrice, the web will break. Her eyes, crimson coals, softened. Remember mercy, eunuch. Mercy may sever shadow's hand. With that she dissolved into darkness, as if dust upon a breeze. VARYS stood rooted. Bells thrice. He recalled the midday toll that signaled the galley. First bell, 2 more omens awaited. Superstition warred with reason. He forced calm. Later foresees tremors, then braces each joint. He ordered extra watch at the belfries, but forbade alarm. Fear breeds prophecy. Calm bends it. 2 dawns later, ravens screamed across the yard. Maidenpool's vaults were secured, Podrick's riders arriving moments before Sellsword's bearing the blackened 7-star banner. Minimal blood, vault sealed under crown seal. Good. But another raven bore black ribbon. Storm's End grain barges attacked upriver by unknown galleys under purple kraken. Asha? VARYS sent for Lady Asha at once. She arrived wind-tossed and furious. Not mine, she snarled, slamming fist on map table. Ironborn, keep, bargain. VARYS searched her face. Pride, yes, but not deceit. So who? Lyrios leftover slavers, perhaps. Rogue captains refusing new codes. He dispatched Asha in pursuit with Lyseni warships. Contract amended to grant salvage rights to captured renegade craft. Asha's laughter rang like shattered ice. I'll bring you their heads or their sails. Sails suffice, VARYS replied. Heads rotted, sails worn. The second bell tolled the next day, hour of ghost-gray dawn. A watchman found dead in tower of the hand stairwell. Throat opened ear to ear. On the wall beside his corpse, painted in blood, shone the 7-pointed star of crossed swords. VARYS touched the stain, still warm. Second bell, second warning. He doubled city patrols, placed Brienne to sleep no more than 4 hours at stretch. She obeyed grimly. Meanwhile, Tyrion departed aboard a swift cutter to Bravos, bearing letters of credit. Illyria marshaled coin, shaving frivolous palace expenditures, silk banners replaced by linen, sunflower seed cakes removed from feasts. Whispers in taverns turned. Some mocked the frugal spider, others toasted him. 7 days after the assassin's mark, Cusa slipped unseen into the solar, eyes huge with terror. We found their nest, she whispered, under the muster-yard old catacombs. Wildfire. Hundreds of pots. VARYS' skin crawled. Secure them, he breathed. Then flood the tunnels. Too late, she said. They light fuses by nightfall. He bolted upright. The muster-yard lay beside the bells of Blessed Bela. Those newly cast bells scheduled to ring tomorrow's dedication. Third bell. VARYS summoned Brienne, Illyria, Dermot. Orders flew. Brienne gathered 200 gold cloaks and raced to the yard. Illyria slammed treasury chests for extra coin. Pay masons double to break cobbles, dig trenches, flood. Dermot armed archers upon rooftops. VARYS walked among them, steady voice issuing calm commands. Panic is tinder. Calm is water. Night glowed purple. At the muster yard, wild-eyed zealots in half-armor chanted hymns, lighting torches near green clay pots stacked like monstrous grapes. Brienne advanced under shield wall, barked offer of mercy. Response, flaming arrow loosed at a pot. Brienne roared, slammed shield above her helm as explosion rocked the cobbles, green tongues licking rain-damp air. More zealots flung torches. Gold cloaks charged. VARYS stood parapet above, watching horror blossom. Wildfire pools hissed. Unlucky men shrieked, skin melting. Archers shot zealots, but each falling torch threatened detonation. VARYS spied the fuse line. A thick rope soaked in oil snaking towards sept bells, awaiting dedication. He seized a lantern, hurried down the stairs, heart pounding. Dermot shouted after him. He ignored. At the yard's edge he skirted flames, found the fuse spitting sparks across muddy flagstones. He dropped, grabbed a dagger, tried to sever, but blade glanced on slippery rope. Sparks raced. He groped frantically, found damp cloak hem, slapped at embers. Heat seared his fingers, but spark died. A breath, then he hacked through rope. The smoldering length fizzled harmless in puddle. Above, the bells loomed silent. Brienne cleaved, last zealot through collarbone. Silence descended, punctured only by crackle of shrinking flames. Bodies charred, air stank of copper and pine. VARYS stood amid smoke, cloak singed, hands blistered, but alive. Third bell did not ring. Melisandre's prophecy, diverted or delayed. Brienne strode to him, eyes wide with alarm that the king had risked himself. He met her glare, calm. Eider cannot weave if the web burns. She knelt, sword across knee. Your bravery may have saved thousands. No, he whispered, gazing at broken corpses, zealot and guard alike. Their lives saved thousands. I merely cut rope. Over following days, healers tended burned men, regardless of loyalty. VARYS visited each cot, speaking gentle words, pressing palms, promising widow stipends. The faith militant plot, uncovered, dissolved. Theomore of Honeyhold publicly denounced armed revolt, recalling how war had claimed innocence. The iron coin ceased to circulate. Yet, VARYS kept one on his desk. Lesson cast in metal. News filtered of Asha's victory. Rogue Kraken raiders captured. Their ships returned. Grain deliveries resumed to Storm's End. Podrick secured a maiden pool. Discovered hidden cistern of wildfire pots, sealed and left to rot. He sent them in barges to Dragonstone, where alchemists under guard distilled them into fertilizer for barren fields. With crises quelled, VARYS called assembly of small folk in the Dragon Pit ruins. Banners of spider symbol hung, but modest, stitched by orphans. He spoke without dais, standing upon cracked marble amidst the crowd. I promise no marvels, he told them, voice carried by natural hush. Only bread, peace, and a place your children may sleep unafraid. Cheers rose, not thunderous, but sincere, like kindling that catches. In the nights that followed, he walked the corridors of the Red Keep alone, palms brushing cool walls, listening for echoes of old kings. He paused often before empty niches where Targaryen dragon skulls had stood, imagining the weight of eyes long extinct. Did you too dream better worlds? He asked silent bones, or only sharper claws? No answer save wind, murmuring through arrow slits. The Spider King convened council monthly thereafter. Coins balanced, wells protected, grain stores monitored, bells rung at set hours, never thrice without cause. Tyrion returned victorious from Bravos, pockets light, treaty heavy. He bowed before throne. Varys motioned him to rise and keep his seat in perpetuity, so long as coffers matched needs. Tyrion winked at Podrick, who beamed. Winter's edge crept soft across Westeros, but King's Landing smelled of baked bread more than rot. Children played marbles in streets once choked with corpses. Spiders and bells shared a joke. Quiet chimes still hearts better than clanging doom. One twilight, Varys ascended the Iron Throne Room alone again. Repairs progressed, cracks filled, windows glazed anew. The throne still jabbed, but less cruelly. Brienne had persuaded smiths to dull the worst spikes, though she left one unshorn behind the seat as reminder. Varys sat, feeling pricks bite thigh. He leaned back, surveying hall where banners of each great house now hung equal height. Lannister crimson no higher than Tyrell rose or Stark gray. Balance, for now. Tiny bird perched on windowsill. A real sparrow. Feathers gray-brown. It chirped, as if in greeting. Varys smiled gently. "Fly free," he whispered. The bird cocked its head, then flitted into dusky sky. The Spider King watched it disappear among rooftops. He folded hands, closed eyes, and allowed one slow breath to carry weight of crown away, if only a moment. Outside, in the city, he labored to mend. Night fanned cool over cobbles, striking no sparks of war. Bells rang once. Curfew. Then silence like velvet spread. Somewhere a child laughed. Somewhere another whispered a prayer. The Spider King listened, hearing in that soft weave the music he had promised himself to guard. The low hum of ordinary survival, threaded through with faint hope. In such music, he thought, a throne might learn to serve the people, not the other way around. And so he sat, spider on iron, weaving still. Snow fell upon King's Landing for the first time in living memory. Fat, wet flakes that sizzled to slush on the paving stones and clung like pearl-gray moss to the broken battlements. It was the weak foretaste of the true winter that crept south behind the wall's collapse. Yet even this paltry curtain of white turned gutters to slurry and made chimney smoke hang sullenly over the rooftops. Varys stood on the ramparts of Maegor's Holdfast, cloak hood up, watching Blackwater Bay vanish into shifting vapor. The spider hated the cold, with no blooded stones where manhood should be. Chill seeped all the quicker. Yet he lingered, measuring how the city shivered. Men cursed ice as though it were an invading host, but frost was only a mirror. It showed where roofs leaked, where children lacked boots, where hearts turned brittle. A ruler ignored that mirror at peril. Below, the mud gate opened just long enough for a procession of covered wagons to rattle in from the Roserat. The wheels groaned under casks of lamp oil and sacks of garlic bound for the Citadel's plague wards newly erected in Flea Bottom. Gold cloaks and spider-marked livery shepherded the convoy. At their head rode Lady Illyria atop a shaggy Dornish mule, cheeks whipped scarlet by cold. She spied the king on the wall and raised a gloved fist in salute. Varys touched 2 fingers to his brow in reply, then turned as Tyrion's step echoed out of the stairwell. The dwarf's cloak was sable otter, far richer than anything Varys wore, yet Tyrion's famously mismatched eyes brimmed with annoyance rather than vanity. "Bravos," he grumbled, "has unleashed a plague of parchment. 24 fresh promissory notes arrived this dawn, each stamped with a Titan seal thicker than my thumb. The Iron Bank thanks us for honoring the last, and so offers more rope about our necks. Rope can haul a drowning man ashore," Varys answered, leading him inside, "or hang him if he forgets to loosen it at land." Tyrion snorted. A lesson in knots, from a spider no less. He fell into stride beside the taller man, cane tapping. "Your master of coin proposes a different tack. Raise a winter levy on silk and spices." They are luxuries. Let them bear the burden. Silk importers propped the Stepstone's trade fleet we hired, VARYS reminded him, descending the interior stair. Tax them now, and the fleet sails for Essos, with its keels unpaid. Tyrion huffed, but his gaze drifted toward the courtyard where Illyria's convoy clattered. Onion Knight wisdom, then. Better stale bread than stones. He reached into his cloak and produced a silver flask. Mulled wine against the chill. VARYS declined with a gentle palm. When the city sleeps beneath snow, I too shall taste fire. They parted at the solar entrance. Tyrion limped toward the treasury wing, muttering figures beneath his breath. VARYS paused before the valet who hovered with warm towels. He waved them off and moved to the hearth where a low fire crackled. Kjusa knelt there, feeding pine cones to the embers. "Messages, Your Grace," she said, rising and handing him a satchel dotted with snowmelt. He settled at the desk, broke seals. Good tidings came first for armor. Podrick had secured truce between river lords and Selzord remnants, brokered with barrels of Storm's End grape. The Vale would send oats by spring in exchange for Dornish olives that now took root near Old Oak. Asha Greyjoy, patrolling Stepstones, reported quiet seas. Piracy dropped by half since her crews fished more profitably under Imperial license. And Tyrion's pirates-turned-taxmen off Gulltown had, improbably, submitted accurate ledgers. Yet wrapped around these bright strands skittered darker silk. A northern scroll written in Sansa Stark's careful hand carried ink-smudged distress. The others, whites of uncanny swiftness, were an older hearsay in boreal villages. The Isle of Skagos had gone silent. Wildlings fled south in ragged columns. Sansa spoke of wolves howling each dawn, of ravens refusing flight. The Night's Watch, such as it was, had retreated to the Queen's Tower at last hearth. She implored the crown for dragonglass, for maesters versed in fires unknown. A separate raven bore the sealed sigil of the Master's conclave. Maester Theobald's neat script warned of a spreading cough in the reach, blackened tongues that swelled lungs. Charcoal tea helped little. They begged for tin, honey, and the Old Town recipe for burning tincture. VARYS exhaled through pursed lips, breath visible in chilled air despite the hearth. One hand strayed to the iron coin that now rested always near his inkwell, relic of zealotry. Another coin lay beside it, a silver stag earned from the boy with grayscale, now cured and apprenticed to the harbor masters. Two faces of the realm, despair and deliverance. He drafted swift orders, Kjusa to ride the Rosarat south, hire every glassblower at Bitterbridge to shape dragonglass tips from dragonstone shards, gold to the Night's Watch for ash bows, Illyria to divert honey and tin from Dornish caravan. The spider seldom left his web. He could send many legs. That night, storms hammered the city. Icicles rattled from roof tiles. VARYS walked the moonwashed corridors alone, oil lamp trembling in his grasp. At the Gallery of Kings, he halted before the portrait of Aegon the Conqueror, black-armored visage stern under ruby-eyed helm. Winter's breath condensed against the canvas. Aegon's face seemed to weep. "You burned to rule," VARYS murmured, lamp casting orange halos over gilt drapery. "I freeze to save." He bowed head, curious whether dead conquerors heard prayers of reluctant kings. Only wind answered, whistling like steel across empty fields. Snow made labor sluggish. Repair works faltered, grain measures slim. Tyrion's winter levy circumvented the Silk Guild entirely. He taxed newly established gambling dens where Asha's sailors squandered coin. Spiders loved when prey gambled. Losses returned as crown revenue. Illyria frowned over every tally but admitted the scheme worked. Sturdy leather boots arrived by the cartload from Norvos. VARYS ordered half-marched north with the first spring thaw. But the winds of prophecy blew sharp. On a dawn when the harbor lay hidden beneath ghost fog, a lone galley drifted in under tattered sails. Its deck was empty, save for one white wolf's pelt nailed to the mast and a bottle of dark green glass tied with twine. No crew, no sound save rigging oil squeaking. King's Landing dockhands spoke of wraiths, some refused to approach. At last, Sir Dermot led archers across a gangplank. The hold stank of salt and something fouler. Below, they found a crew. 30 men and women, frozen upright, eyes milky, limbs brittle. No wounds, only faces locked in silent howl. In the captain's cabin, scrawled upon the wall in chalk, 5 words. Winter follows the song. The bottle contained scroll fragments, half eaten by seawater. What remained told a grim tale. The Raven's Mercy had sailed from White Harbor laden with smoked cod and obsidian arrows, bound for Dragonstone. A week into voyage, snow squalls surrounded the ship. Sailors heard music between gusts, a high keening like glass humming. On the 6th night, the sea iced solid. Shapes moved across the floes, blue-lit eyes in sockets of frost. The scroll broke off mid-sentence. They are making us sing. Maester Yalabar insisted some malady of ergot spores afflicted the crew, but Brienne, reading the captain's log by the hearth, pressed gauntleted knuckles to her brow. No sickness freezes seawater in high summer, she muttered. Tyrion stared into his cup, wine forgotten. The song of ice, he whispered, was never simply a metaphor. Varys listened, silent, to their debate. When Maester Jalabar sought charts of prevailing currents, VARYS rose. Whether sorcery or sickness, a shadow crawls from the north, he said. We will not debate danger warm in these halls while the north stands alone. He turned to Tyrion. Ready the fleet, Ashas, Lyrios, and royal longships. Not to wage war, but to ferry aid. Tyrion closed his eye, inhaled. Aye, but half our hulls lack pitch. Supplies dwindle. Illyria interjected. Tar kilns at Duskendale can provide, but the killmasters are indentured by Celtigar debts. Varys waved that worry aside. Redeem their debts. The crown pays now. The realm lives later. He faced Brienne. You will ride north ahead of fleet, bearing obsidian and iron. Brienne's surprise lasted a heartbeat. Then she knelt. As your grace commands, I will defend Lady Stark or die live, Varys said gently. Death teaches nothing. Preparations consumed fortnight after snow's first fall. Carters from Tumbleton hauled oak staves. Smiths of King's Landing worked by torchlight, forging arrowheads laced with dragonglass dust. A Kahoric technique whispered by Koja, the acrobat's brother. The harbor resounded with hammering, creak of new planks, curses in half a dozen tongues. Varys visited daily, offering warm broth to apprentices, slipping coins to widows patching sails. Word spread that the Spider King's purse was bottomless. In truth, it was coin reshuffled from feasts he had cancelled and tournaments he had declined. On the eve of departure, the moon rose crimson through veils of ice. The old dragons had called such moons the stranger's eye. Varys woke to thudding hooves in the courtyard. Sir Dermot's horse, lathered and blowing, rider clutching scroll black-sealed. The knight thrust it into the king's hands, helm off, hair plastered with slush. The seal bore a stylized stallion mid-gallop, sigil of House Dothery, a minor free city lineage. Varys knew for unscrupulous sellswords. He cracked it open. You eyes. Within, a terse missive. Aegon lives. Golden Company sails. Crown yourself twice if you wish to keep head. Beneath the words, a blot that might have been ink or blood frozen, smeared. An old ache tugged Varys' gut. Aegon, young Griff, had died in the burning of Astapor years ago, or so every spy reported. Could a pretender now rise beneath that banner, taking advantage of winter's distraction? Tyrion arrived minutes later, summoned by Dermot. The dwarf read, then gripped his cane so hard his knuckles whitened. If the Golden Company rides the storm, they'll land at Storm's End or Tarth. Harbors still sought. Varys whispered, 2 fronts. Ice in the north, gold in the south. He closed eyes, sought calm. A spider could mend one tear at a time. Yet sometimes the whole web quivered. We do not break the northern aid, he said slowly. Brienne rides still, with half the fleet. Tyrion, you and Asha take the other half, patrol from Massey's Hook to the Stepstones. If the Golden Company shows crimson sails, burn them or block them. Illyria, coin flows where mercenaries feed. Freeze all wire transfers traced to Tyrosh and Qohor. Jalabar, send ravens to Sunspear, Old Town, and even High Garden. Tell them Winterwalkers do not sack only northern keeps. Appeal to their self-preservation. None to need. The council dispersed like arrows loosed. Gedza lingered by the doorway, fingers twisting apron edge. The little birds, she murmured. We have song from Volantis, says a silver-haired man with violet eyes gathers exiles round a black-winged banner. Varys set hand on her scruffy head. Tell them keep singing, but from safe eaves. Before dawn, Brienne's column clattered out the King's Gate, hooves striking frozen rut. Varys watched from the barbican, snowflakes stinging lashes. She carried with her bound journals of wildfire vault maps, dragonglass arrow crates, and letters of safe conduct for every holdfast between Trident and Last Heart. Podrick waited at Maidenpool, ready to join with river levies marching north. Beyond them the world grew white, the song of glass hummed ghosts drifting on the wind. Back within the keep, Varys donned plain gloves and slipped down to the vaults beneath the Tower of the Hand. A heavy chest sat upon trestles. Wildfire transferred from Dragonstone, each pot wrapped in wool and dipped in candle wax to delay ignition. Tyrion had argued to dump the stuff at sea. Varys insisted on keeping a bare few dozen. A weapon of last resort, he murmured now, finger tracing the wax-sealed lid. But woe to the realm whose salvation comes wrapped in green fire. Above, bells rang midday. Clear, unpanicked. Varys felt their thrumming like a pulse in bone. When he emerged to the yard, he found the High Septon Theomore awaiting audience, wool robes edged in frost. The holy man bowed deeply. Your Grace summoned? I did, Varys replied. They walked side by side along the colonnade, their breath twin ghosts. You preach mercy, Varys began, and I practice it. Yet, mercy bears cost. The realm faces twin blades, dead men walking, gold men marching. The faith can rally hearts quicker than banners. I ask for sermons of unity, not division. None. Theomore folded hands. The faith militant's memory still stings, Your Grace. I forbade rearming, but tongues are sharper than any sword. Then let tongues preach bread for the north, Varys said. He pressed a parchment into Theomore's hand, orders for every sept to open granaries, melt candle stubs into tallow to trade for oats, weave sparrow cloaks for refugees. Theomore read, lips moving. This will empty coffers. Empty or full? Coffers cannot eat grain, Varys answered. Souls can. Theomore's breath steamed. So be it. I shall speak at every dawn. Feed thy neighbor, else the stranger feed on thee. That afternoon, Illyria brought disturbing ledgers, a sudden drain of coin from Irish accounts, as though someone purchased war horses in bulk. Varys guessed Golden Company again, galloping toward Storm's End. He dispatched ravens to Tarth, cautioning their gallant Evan Star to bar his beaches. Yet his mind churned darker. What if Aegon, true or false, convinced Westerosi malcontents that a male dragon was safer than a spider? Nobles starved of pageantry might flock to him. Night deepened, skies clearing. Stars shone icy bright. Varys, restless, paced his solar. On the hearth sat a silver music box Tyrion had gifted, carved with interlocking gears. Varys wound it. A song spilled out. Gentle mother, font of mercy. The lullaby Septa's croon. He listened, eyes closed, until final chime. Then he gathered quill and parchment and began drafting a charter. Tentative, fragile, the shape of a council chosen by guilds and freeholders to share governance once the storm passed. If he died, the document might guide. If he lived, it would anchor reforms. He wrote until finger joints ached, until dawn pinked the snow-blanketed city. At Cockrokiza burst in, cheeks streaked with tears. The docks! Fire! Smoke smeared sunrise. Varys dashed to the window. A half-rigged galley burned at pier's end, mast a torch. Sailors scrambled, silhouettes against scarlet glare. He caught the faint boom of exploding pitch. Tyrion's fleet. He bolted downstairs 4 at a time, Dermot and a squad of cloaks on his heels. They reached the harbor as bucket lines formed. Flames licked adjacent hulls, tar hissed. Varys found Tyrion amidst chaos, barking orders hoarse. Sabotage, the dwarf rasped, face soot-smeared. Someone smashed oil casks, then loosed lanterns. Varys threw himself into labor, passing buckets, shouting to cut burning more ropes lest fire leap ship to ship. After 2 hours, the inferno guttered, leaving 3 galleys gutted, 6 scorched. Bodies floated, charred. Tyrion collapsed on crate, breathing ragged. Half the transport tonnage gone, he whispered. Illyria appeared with quill, already note-taking damages. Varys knelt beside Tyrion. The dwarf's eyes glimmered with unshed rage. Coin buys new ships, Varys said. Lives cannot. Tyrion nodded, jaw clenched. In ash dust they found a sigil scorched into deck planks of one destroyed vessel, crossed swords and a 7-pointed star. Faith, zealots again. Theomore, summoned, blanched. A heretic schism, he swore. The righteous do not burn aid. Varys believed him, but belief did not douse flame. That eve in council, Tyrion spoke first. We sail still, with what ships remain. We load fewer horses, more grain. We row if masts fail. His voice cracked, but will held. Asha vowed to guard the convoy with her swiftest longships. Dermot volunteered as deck captain despite little seacraft. Asha clapped his shoulder. Varys assented. Go then, before saboteurs regroup. As stars wheeled overhead, Varys signed the freshly inked charter, folded it, sealed in wax with small spider stamp, and secreted copies to Kedza, Illyria, and Brienne by Raven. He slept little, hearing phantom music of glass men singing. Slush turned to hard ice. Tyrion's fleet slipped downriver, black sails against dawn coral. Varys stood on the stone quay, cloak whipped by frost wind, watching until hulls blended into horizon. Gulls keened like lost children. He whispered a prayer in 4 languages, none his mother tongue, each begging safe passage. Back at the Red Keep, he found Maester Jalabar, hunched over a brazier, reading a rush scroll. His spectacles fobbed. Ravens from the east, Jalabar reported. Carthians speak of a shadow sweeping the red waste. Refugees freeze beneath stars that never set. Some swear a silver dragon on black wings rides before the storm, breathing wind that snuffs campfires. Varys' mind flicked. Aegon legend again, twisted. He rubbed temples. Perhaps winter knows no shores. He dispatched more letters, more coin. His treasury thinned like beaten copper. Illyria alarmed. If storms wreck harvests, we starve. He answered, starve sharing, not hoarding, and the people will forgive, even defend. She nodded, but fretted. Third moon of winter rose fat and red. No word from Brienne. Ravens north found only snow-buried nests. No word from Tyrion. Storms off Cape Wrath snarled shipping. King's Landing held breath. Hunger lines grew, though still soft. The faith ladled soup, yet some acolytes spat spider accusations. Varys answered with more broth. No recrimination. Then, on a morning, bright with blue sun, bells rang once, twice, thrice, not in dread, but in mounting joy. Sails on the horizon, black with silver kraken, striped with green spider. Tyrion's convoy limped into port, hulls iced, rigging dangling, but grain-filled holds. Brienne rode at figurehead of the Iron Mercy, cloak torn, but eyes alight. In the throne room that night, Brienne spoke for the north. Snowdrifts higher than men swallowed Moat Cailin. The others prowled beyond Last Hearth. Yet dragon glass worked. Arrows felled whites. Fires of pitch burned White Walkers to shards. Sansa's bannermen held, but the enemy numbers grew with each fallen soldier. "We bought the north one winter," Brienne said, voice hoarse. "No more." Tyrion stepped forward, limping worse, face gaunt from sleepless seas. "And Golden Company?" Varys asked. Tyrion unrolled a tattered flag, 3 skulls upon black. "Met them off Storm's End. Asha feigned retreat, drew them into shoals. We scattered half. The rest fled to Lys. Their so-called Aegon sank with the griffin's roar, if ever he lived." Relief gusted through the hall, yet Tyrion's eyes remained shadowed. "But more sellswords will come," he warned. "War is coin's oldest market." Varys rose from the throne's pricking seat. "Then we give them no market," he declared. "We give the small folk houses stronger than gold, hope testier than plunder." He beckoned Illyria. She produced the charter. Varys lifted it high, wax seal glinting in torchlight. "This realm shall bind not through fear, nor dragonfire, nor wildfire, but through covenant. Guilds of craftsmen, halls of healers, orders of knights sworn to the people first. One spider's web cannot stretch forever. Together, many strands spin a tapestry sky-wide." Silence met his words, weighty as snowfall. Then Theomore stepped forth, bowed, and placed his staff beneath the charter. One by one, Brienne, Tyrion, Illyria, Dermot knelt, touching sword hilts to stone. Lords in the gallery shifted, then approached. Giles Rosby coughing blood flecks. Lord Staunton of Rook's Rest. Lady Swan of Stonehelm. Their signatures followed. Varys exhaled, shoulders loosening. The Iron Throne's barbs still bit, but the pain had become familiar, as constant as pulse, as steady as breath. That night, long after torches guttered and courtiers drifted to wine-heavy sleep, Varys walked the silent hallways. Moonlight silvered corridors. He paused before the scorched reliquary where dragon skulls once menaced. An idea glimmered. He sent for masons. Within weeks, frames rose. Not skulls, but glass windows depicting farmers plowing, healers binding wounds, smiths forging plowshares where swords had been. When sun shone through colored panes, reds and greens painted mosaics across flagstones. Melisandre appeared again one dusk, ruby pulsing. "The bells rang thrice," she said, voice almost gentle. "And still you stand." Varys inclined head. "Not by magic, my lady, nor by fire," she answered. "Fire may yet come, but if mercy girds your realm, perhaps fire will warm, not consume." She turned to go, then paused. "Remember the stranger's eye watches always. Then let the stranger see a realm worth sparing." He replied. She vanished like embers swirling up a chimney. Winter deepened, yet the city breathed. Bread lines formed but stayed orderly. Hearths burned sea coal distributed by the crown. Smoke curled blue into frozen sky. Children skated puddles on the Dragon Pit Hill, laughing. Tyrion organized theater troupes to perform ribald farces in market squares, claiming laughter warmed faster than soup. Brienne drilled the new watch of the web, knights from every corner, teaching them to fight in tight phalanx, shields overlapping like spider carapace. Night by night, VARYS sat the Iron Throne weaving. Letters to Dorne for citrus against scurvy, to Old Town for lantern glass to brighten streets, to Qohor for black steel plowshares. The wound on his thigh scarred to numb callus. Barbs still pierced but bled no more. He grew thinner, eyes keener. Once, in darkest hour, he dozed upon the throne and dreamt the hall filled with ghosts. Daenerys, silver hair aflame. Jon Snow, cloak of ghost white fur. Cersei, crown of jagged iron. They said nothing. They only watched as the spider spun thread across the blades, binding sword to sword until none could move. He woke, heart stuttering, to find dawn gilding the sword tip's gentle rose. A sparrow chirped on shattered sill. He smiled. And so the Spider King reigned, patient, vigilant, barbs pricking reminders of duty. Winter's song echoing from the north, gold tide rumbling seaward. He wove without ceasing, for a web is never finished. To pause is to fray. Beyond the walls, snow whispered over empty fields, covering both unmarked graves and new-sown seeds. In that silence, seeds dreamt of spring, and somewhere far off, faint as a candle behind ice-rimed glass, the realm dared dream too.